Good afternoon. This is a follow-up to several videos that I've been trying to post online. Uh, for some reason, I'm not sure what I did to my tablet. I'm sorry about that if it interfered. Um, but I wanted to make a follow-up to my trip to the mall uh, video of the other day where I was touched a little bit on the pandemic experience for Canadian born lady and her children, grandchild, and great granddaughter. Just in case that last video I posted, I think it was last week, confused anybody, it's important to note that the baby, when my granddaughter delivered the baby through the emergency C-section, and I said black, what I meant was she was black, the infant was black in skin tone simply because she was, according to my granddaughter anyway, she knew that the baby was not living at the time, and her skin tone was black. Not that she was meant to be a black person, not that that would make any difference. The baby, whatever. But considering mommy was Caucasian and daddy was Caucasian, it would be expected that the baby's skin tone would be something other than black. I'm just saying. The only reason her skin tone was black was because she was, for all intents and purposes, dead. And thanks be to God, in 2020, Mount Sinai Hospital had the staff that were capable of resuscitating that baby. Unfortunately, Lakeridge Health, Oshawa, had the staff that were negligent enough to do nothing for that mother, and nearly were, in my opinion, just my opinion, responsible for the negligent death of that child, if it weren't for the heroes that saved and resuscitated both the child and the infant child, who now is 5.5 and very bright and very happy to be 5.5, little girl that she is. And her mother is still waiting for the surgery to correct the hernia that developed, where her intestine protruded through the opening from that very C-section. Again, 5.5 years later, waiting to have that repair done. That's Canadian healthcare now. Just saying. But my reason for posting today was because I wanted to inform and make a notation about catch up with some of the very critical information that I believe my fellow Canadians who are oblivious, brainwashed, or deliberately kept in the dark need to hear. That it is true, Mark Carney is preparing for an actual war, it appears to me, with the United States of America, because he prefers to partner with the likes of China and Great Britain to insist that the United States is an enemy of Canada. And he actually went out on the weekend. This is why I believe it's true, because he pointed out Brock, a Revolutionary War soldier from Great Britain, as his little worshipping idol that he worships at his desk. Brock, the guy that he's referring to, or is decided is a hero for Canadian culture, actually went on a suicide mission on behalf of Britain to try to start war and set the Washington, D.C. White House on fire. He died. He's not really a Canadian hero. That happened in 1812, before Canada was even a thing. But I suspect it had everything to do with the fact that Britain was still at war, technically speaking, with the United States of America, trying to recover waterways, because the United States was, you know, concerned about what Britain was doing via the Canadian waterways. Well, the now Canadian waterways. Then there was no such thing as Canada, just so you know. But Britain was waging war with, during the Neapolitan Wars, 1812, and they were abducting anybody that they could find that were in the waters of Canada, the waterways that were shared with Canada, or the British territories that they believed they owned, while they were trying to kill off a lot of people to lay claim to the Canadian land during the war that they were having with Napoleon at that time. But eventually, the French-Canadian War ended up in a draw, which is why Canada's got to preserve its Catholic background, not just the Christian background that came from Britain at the time. It had to preserve all Christians, but primarily Catholic Christians, because Britain didn't like Catholics either and were killing them. It's part of history. Not the history that Carney is trying to rewrite and indoctrinate the stupid Canadians that were retarded enough to vote for that pig. Because what you voted for, Canadian liberals, who are still indoctrinated, like my mother-in-law, but then she's a greedy person. Most of her generation are. There's the no-fault divorce people that left, that were left behind, and money became God to them. Money, money, money. And freebies from Canada. Live on handouts from Canada. She's part of that generation of indoctrinated people. The people that, the middle of the road baby boomers, those ones that were the older baby boomers, that for the most part, the good ones were all murdered during COVID in nursing homes, in my opinion. That's what COVID was all about, really. That's the reason why that virus came to Canada, really. That's the reason why the virus was developed in a lab in China. It's because it's meant to kill people. It was meant to kill people. Apparently, they've got one now that's 100% effective in killing, that I suspect they're willing to release on the world again, hoping that nature doesn't fix the problem that scientist has cooked up in some, gain of function lab somewhere in order to win this war that's been taking place against freedom and the free world all over the world. And, the globalists have lost their game. But China and India, I think, have made a deal with Carney. And Carney's willing to wage war on behalf of King Charles and his European, family. He doesn't have family in Canada. They don't live in Canada. So what does he care what happens to the Canadian population? He owns everything that's going to be allowed to produce anything in Canada. Indirectly, of course, he's not acting as if he knows he owns everything that's allowed to operate in Canada. And it's a theory I have. Where you get the real information on my theory is on Elevate, Josh's channel in Canada. Where you get the real information on my theory and why I've come to these conclusions is from Clyde Do Something. His channel is Canadian channel on YouTube. Rebel News, you know. Let's see. Northern Perspective is reporting today. Actually, there's a committee hearing where the tool and die people have asked for an emergency committee hearing to tell them how the tool and die is going to be devastated. The companies that have left Canada that produce anything aren't coming back, and Carney doesn't want them to come back. He's making way for the communist rules that Canada is going to be operating under from here on out. You know, private businesses are not allowed to take place, and Carney makes money off everything that is allowed to operate in Canada. You see. And, you know, just in case people are worried that he doesn't have a military, China has a military. India does. Great Britain does. Now, stupid Carney, he's retarded, I believe. And he's really stupid enough to believe that China will honor their word when they come in with when they've owned Canada, occupy Canada, control Canada, and let him have all of the money that he's made with his Brookfield and all of his partners. Maybe allow the King of England and the deals that have been made all over Europe with the UK and all of those people to make the money that they want to make. I don't know. You're dealing with communists, Great Britain, European Union. Communists cannot be held to their word. Culturally speaking, they have no obligation or conscience. I mean, they're telling Mr. Trump all kinds of bullshit as they're trying to smuggle. What was it they were smuggling into Iran on behalf of Great Britain? Or, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't call it Great Britain anymore. It's not really Great Britain. No, it belongs to Lloyd's of London. Isn't that the company that sort of really is control and thought it had control over all of the world until Mr. Trump put a little flea in their ointment? And we have a mentally retarded, socially inadequate, diminutive little bullied baby boy, Mr. Carney, I think. I could be wrong. Who's been acting on Lloyd's of London's behalf when he was with Goldman Sachs, and in the United Kingdom when he was with them, and behind the scenes as he was mentoring little baby PMT when he kind of lost. He was too stupid to manage to do as he's told by China, so he kind of fell out of favor during around 2020, 2021. That's when Mr. Carney stepped in and operated him. Like I remember, I've got myself on video. He worked Justin Trudeau like he was a hand puppet. In one hand, this was Justin, little baby PMT. And in this hand, guess who? Miss Freeland, who thinks she's going to be making a shit ton of money in the Ukraine. Weird, huh? I could be wrong. I'm entitled to be wrong, but I believe it's true. And the evidence of what's been going on and the fact that Carney is talking about his dead fucking colonel that died trying to wage war on the United States in Washington in 1812 as his mentor, and yet we've still got our founding father, Sir John A. Macdonald, in a cardboard box outside of our Queen's Park. Doug Ford, Please, what are you? How dumb do you have to be? Really? Really? Do you really think that you will have anything once China and India are doing the battle at the front line? That's going to be the border between the Americans and the United States, because economically speaking, Trump's already won the economic war. There's got to be a kinetic war now. We don't have a military, but we do have a lot of newbies that came from India that think they own a lot of stuff. Are they going to be conscripted to fight a war against the soldiers of America? Because you know what? This Canadian girl knows that we've been excluded from real warfare while the whole world suffered. The wars that were started by the likes of the globalists. The globalists in their greed that are responsible for what happened to Iran, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Ukraine. You're stupid enough to believe Russia was responsible for the Ukraine war? You are really dumb. If you're stupid enough to believe the Yemen people are responsible for what's going, or any African nation is responsible for what's going on in Africa, what happened to Africa, you're really stupid. These pigs, the globalist pigs that Carney's part of. China is evil because it's communist and they don't care. Communists don't care. It's a construct. Worked well to murder a lot of people behind the Iron Curtain. Worked well to murder a lot of innocent people in Cambodia, Vietnam, North Korea, China. Just saying. And that's Carney's partner. And that's who owns Canada, according to Carney. That's who's controlling him, who tells him how to rock this country. And Canadians, well, choose to remain silent and brainwashed because it's scary. Look what happened after the Iron Curtain fell to Bosnia, Herzegovina, Slovenia, all these countries. Hungary. I hope this new guy that you guys elected really is true to his word. Hungarians, make sure that he stays with his word. I hope you weren't brainwashed and indoctrinated into voting in a monster. But everywhere else in Europe has been. I suspect maybe Italy might still have a leader that is of value. Some smaller countries. Denmark just had an election. And, well, I don't know how that's going to go for you guys. But the fact of the matter is, it's time, Canada. Canadian people, stand up. Don't let Carney get away with what he's doing. Today is Wednesday. Watch Parliament. They're talking in Parliament in Canada today. Watch Mr. Sunshine Baby. Watch Clyde do something. Watch Northern Perspective. Northern Perspective has a good synopsis. And also, for my American brothers and sisters, who I don't consider enemies, and please, Mr. Trump, come and take over Canada before Carney sells us out to the enemies that within and without. Please, 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 I beg you. Anyway, um, by the way, Clarence Thomas the Supreme Court Justice, addressed the nation. Well, it should be the nation. It should be considered like a national address. Every voting person in the United States of America needs to watch his address that he gave to the Texas University last week. And it'll give you the ammunition you require to avoid Canada's fate or the world's fate. Because if these democratic criminals get into power and are able to stop Trump somehow from what he's doing, guess what's going to happen? Well, you don't need to guess. Just watch what happens to the Canadian people. Watch it. Learn. Investigate, open your minds, and stop allowing yourselves to be brainwashed into believing that your sexuality determines who you are as a person. And that Mr. Trump is an enemy. He's trying to save your lives, regardless of whether or not. He's trying to save your lives because he can make money better. And he doesn't want to become a slave. Even these tools that are in power all over the world, they're slaves already. They're not working for the people of the countries that they're lording over. Trump is the truth. Like it or not, Rosie O'Donnell doesn't have the truth. These cows on that, what's that? Those cows on The View? Filthy animals. Go back home to your mansions and your billions or millions of dollars that you milked out of as celebrities. Keep your opinions to yourself. You're stupid and you're brainwashed and you're cows. All of you. You don't speak for women, not real women. Not women who have been fighting the good fight from the moment of birth and all over the so-called free world since feminism was taken over by the porn industries and the pharmaceutical industries. Come on, you pigs. Go have sex with whatever you want to have sex with. You stupid women. Morons. You've deprived your fellow women of their rights to reproduce, you pigs. Their rights to be honored as the women that they are. You pigs. We don't need to become men like men. Be fucked like men. And fuck like men. To have dignity. You pigs. Used like we're a commodity. You filthy idiots. Brainwashed fools. That's what you are, like it or not. You think you're free? There's nothing free about you. You're too stupid. You're just really stupid. You know, women of the Middle East, one thing about them is they're smart. And yeah, they may be forced to wear burqas and but they're not forced to have the children that they have. They want them. Just like I did. I wanted to have as many children as my body would let me have. I wasn't allowed to. Most Canadian women aren't. By the time they're allowed to have children, they're usually too old to have them. And that COVID vaccination has made it really hard for men and women to have babies. That's going to be the next big industry, isn't it? In vitro, whatever. Pharmaceutical companies, you evil. Whatever. I don't care. Carney's declaring war on the United States. Now, You think that you're not going to find any Canadian people? You're not. You're not going to find any Canadian people to take up arms against their American brothers and sisters and cousins and whatnot. But you do have a lot of Indians. They do have a lot of Indians and foreigners that are happy to go to war against Americans. They're already killing them. And Canadians, too. Don't be stupid, Canadian born people. Or Canadian immigrants that came before 2017. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. And those of you who've come and who are willing to fight in a Carney war, what's wrong with you? Go back to where you came from and create a country worth living in. Don't allow the pigs that are making money off you to enslave you, make you hate your neighbors for whatever reason. Love you. Have a good day. Again, Wednesday, April 21st. Spring is in the air, and Carney will kill us all because he's making money. He's the only one making money in Canada, and businesses are fleeing. Love you guys.